Senator Lyons.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, President, and congratulations on your appointment today. So I rise to speak about the—
Senator, you'll need to formally move the motion.
Oh, sorry. I move the motion?
Thank you. Yes, now please speak.
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Mr Deputy President. I move to speak about the plight of the actual impact of what's happened to cleaners under the guidelines that Senator Betts refuses to take responsibility for in this place. And in question time today, Senator Betts tried to put the responsibility for cutting cleaners' wages by $5 an hour onto the Fair Work Commission. And Senator Betts is currently taking, and indeed has not taken—
Sorry, Senator Lyons, if I can ask senators who are not involved in the conversation if they could please extend the courtesies to the speakers and take the debate outside. Senator Lyons.
Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy President. But the truth is, Senator Betts himself has cut the wages of cleaners, and there's no getting around that. It is not Fair Work. It's not anyone else. It is Senator Betts who has absolutely made the decision to cut the wages of cleaners, and he's done that very early on as the Minister for Employment. And in fact, really, he's the Minister for Unemployment for cutting the wages of cleaners in such a harsh and cruel way. Senator Betts has made this decision, allegedly saying it's something about red tape. Well, there's no red tape. There's no red tape involved in cutting cleaners' wages by $5 an hour. And what was put in place under Labor, I think clearly the minister does not understand, because one of the things the minister has said on the Insiders program is he wants a level playing field. Well, that's exactly what Labor did, put in place a level playing field. And what Labor did was said, if you're a contractor, and in this case a contract cleaning company, bidding for Commonwealth work, then we say that there's a rate of pay that needs to be paid, there's a set of conditions that need to be adhered to, and there's a work rate which has been thoroughly investigated and set. And what that did was ensured that cleaners who might work in the same building for 30 years but have 5 or 6 different employers didn't go from contract to contract facing this uncertainty. Because what was happening before Labor put in place a fair playing field was that at contract change, cleaners didn't know even if they had a job. So every time a contract changed, every couple of years, cleaners faced the prospect of having no employment, of finding them on the scrap heap of unemployment. So Labor fixed that through these guidelines. The second thing Labor did was also took their wages out of competition, because one of the other things that contractors used to be able to compete around was whether they paid the award for cleaners, which is around about $18 an hour, or whether there was an enterprise agreement in place. And Labor said, no, if we're going to have an even playing field, then cleaners deserve to have the same hourly rate, not to have their wages go up or down or indeed be out of work every time somebody else, not the cleaners, somebody else, a government bureaucrat, made a decision to change the contract. The other piece that Labor put in place was to say there needs to be a fair work rate, because one of the other things that cleaners often experienced when they were kept on by the contractor would be told suddenly their cleaning area doubled. And obviously that's not a fair thing. So Labor amended all of that and put into place a set of guidelines that said if you are contracting for government work in government buildings, there's a certain standard. And what Minister Betts has done is come along and just slash that. There's no red tape about this. This is an ideological hatred of workers in this country, and he demonstrates it day after day in this chamber. And to stand in here today in response to questions put to him on behalf of Labor, asking him why he did that, he somehow kind of tried to shift the blame to the Fair Work Commission. And yesterday, indeed, the Archbishop of Canberra and Goulburn is so concerned about this, he has raised this in the media, and in fact he has called cleaners the new battlers. the new battlers. And Senator Abetz rubbished him as well and said he didn't know the full story. Well, the test is coming, Senator Abetz. The test is coming, because on the 1st of October, the garrison support contract will change. Those cleaners currently have their rate of pay, their right to continue to work, their conditions of employment and their workload set by Labor, under Labor's standards, under those guidelines. And those guidelines were slashed and burned by Senator Abetz a couple of weeks ago. So Senator Abetz said to those 50-odd cleaners at the garrison support, I don't care about you. Somehow I'm going to hide behind the Fair Work Commission and red tape, and I'm going to slash your pay. So right now, those cleaners, the 50-odd cleaners at garrison support, have no guarantee that on the 2nd of October that they will even have a job. That is the detail underpinning that quick signature that Senator Abetz sneakily put on a piece of paper a couple of weeks ago. He has absolutely directly, no one else is responsible for this except Senator Abetz, threatened the ongoing employment of those cleaners at garrison support. So that's their first issue. Do they have a job on the 2nd of October? If they have a job, will they have lost more than $100 a week in pay? Because the new contractor coming in under Senator Abetz's new guideline can just take their current pay and drop them back to the award. No questions asked. If you want the job, this is the rate you sign for. We've all been there before under the old Work Choices Day. And that's what Senator Abetz has done, is threatened their employment. If they're given a job, they could be asked to sign at the lower rate. And in addition to that, they could have their hours cut, their conditions cut, their workload increased. For those cleaners at garrison support, what the minister has done is absolutely guaranteed they have no certainty about the future. And good on the Archbishop for Canberra and Goulburn for speaking out, because it's not okay to take $170-odd away from cleaners who work full-time. They've got bills to pay. They've got families to feed. And all of those cleaners, the 50-odd cleaners at garrison support, are facing that real threat on the 2nd of October. The other person I'd like to talk about is Chris Wagland, long-term cleaner in government contracts. She's worked in a defence building for about 30 years. Now, she lost her job previously under John Howard and his harsh work choices laws, where Chris, despite fronting up to work every day in the Commonwealth building, the Department of Defence had done a great job raising a family, boys at high school and so on, she refused to sign an Australian Workplace Agreement. And guess what? She was sacked. But Chris is back there now. But again, once her contract comes up, she's facing uncertainty again. Will she lose her job? Will her hourly rate be cut? What will happen to her workload? And in the 30 years that Chris Wagland has worked at that defence contract building, she's had about 5 or 6 different employers. Same building, same cleaning, same staff that she probably interacts with every day of the week, and yet on 5 occasions her job has been threatened. Her livelihood's been threatened, and she has also been sacked. So Chris was one of the cleaners who was very, very excited when Labor signed these Fair Work principles. And what she's now seen is same old under this Abbott government. And this is a Prime Minister who also, on Fairfax Radio, promised no worker would be worse off. No worker would be worse off under the government led by Mr Tony Abbott. Well, guess what? Here we have 50 low-paid cleaners, and when you walk into a government building, they will be the lowest-paid cleaners there. And what Senator Abetz did 2 weeks ago, sneakily, didn't tell anyone, didn't signal he was going to do it, was cut their rate of pay. And there's no getting around this. There's no trying to blame Fair Work. The blame for this rests fairly and squarely with Senator Abetz. And those 50 cleaners at garrison support who on October 2nd now don't know whether they've got a job, what their hours of work will be, what their rate of pay will be, what their work rate will be, and that responsibility rests fairly and squarely with the Minister for Unemployment, because that's what he's really doing. He's the Minister for Unemployment, and that responsibility for their welfare and their future rests with Senator Abetz. Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy President.